Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Bradley J. Show. We're talking about the Blizzard of '78. I want you to share your Blizzard of '78 story, and I'll share mine. I have to remind you that the Blizzard of '78 started on February 5, and it wrapped up today, February 7th, and it was really something. Now, if you're my age, back when you were a kid, you remember, boy, there seemed to be a lot more snow, at least in New Hampshire. Maybe it was because I was small, but snow plows would routinely plow banks over your head on the side of the road. That doesn't happen anymore, even up there, partly because it's warm and partly because I'm taller than I was as a kid, at least for a while. I'm shrinking, though, again. So let me get to my story of the Blizzard of '78. It was 1978, surprisingly enough, and I was in college at the University of New Hampshire, living in Newmarket, New Hampshire, in a place called the Berry Block. It was almost kind of like a commune. It was 12 apartments, 4 on the floor, but there was an open door policy. It was kind of fun. You could just go into other people's apartments and flop down or just take food out of their fridge. It was cool. And it started snowing. And back then, there wasn't the hype on storms there is now. Plus, this one kind of snuck up, I guess. Plus, I didn't have a TV. I didn't pay any attention to the news then. And I'm trying not to pay any attention to the news now. And the people I went to school with and lived in that same spot actually was this woman you see here named Lola. Hi there, Lola.
Hello.
I was just starting to tell my story of the Blizzard of '78, which when I lived at the Berry Block in Newmarket, New Hampshire. And so, you probably had a similar story because you were in the same area. Why don't you tell us your story?
Well, I live next door to the Berry Block in we call it the Beauchesnes building. Yeah, and you're right. That storm was not predicted in its ferocity. That's why there were hundreds of cars stuck on major highways buried deep, and people stayed in their cars. They were trapped.
How
But
about your story? Tell me about, what you were doing exactly. You can probably remember. You were making
oh yeah.
dinner, or what'd you do?
Well, I had loaned my little Peugeot crappy car, as you know, to Michael Kelly and Rob.
Neighbor.
The day These
This
were
was,
friends. They
yeah.
lived in the Berry Block or were friends of ours. And so I said, sure. Mike was headed to South Station to go pick up his sister from Washington, D.C. So I said, sure, borrow my car. This was the day before the storm. We had no inkling of what was to happen. So they left. And for 3 days, I was trapped in my apartment alone in Newmarket watching the snowfall. UNH called off classes for 4 days, maybe even longer. Looking out the window across the street to the mills of Newmarket, there was absolutely no traffic, and it seemed like feet and feet of snow were falling. And I did not see Mike, Rob for a week. And they had to actually go back later to get my car out of parking. Only 3 buses were allowed to go north after a week
So they were
in
trapped
Boston.
in a bar in Boston for
Yeah,
days.
they went into a bar, which turned out to be the best refuge you can find in a blizzard, apparently. And all the employees at that particular bar took people home. And Rob and Mike spent days sleeping on the sofas or the floors, getting through the storm. And then when it was announced in Boston that there would be buses taking people north, they hopped on the bus, came back, and said, oh, don't worry, we'll go back and get the car. They put Mike's sister Meg right back on the train to go back to DC. She never made it up to the university.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah,
Mike and Rob were trapped in a bar, an Irish pub, somewhere
right.
near the Playboy Club area,
Hmm.
the bus station area, and so they had quite a story to tell. Well, thank you very much, Laura. I appreciate
Sure,
that. And
sure.
a lot of your experiences are similar to mine, at least for the 4-year period of college because we went to the same college. 1978. It was funny. Well, I do remember how peaceful it was the day after, how bright and sunny, because I was hitchhiking back from my experience, which I guess I'll share now. Thank you, Lola, for checking in. Now we have
Sure.
Boston Bob. How you doing, Bob?
I'm amazing, Brad. How are you?
I am very well. Tell me about your experience in the blizzard of
Wow,
78.
look at your attire. I'm sorry I didn't dress up for the occasion.
Yeah, aren't you freezing? It's the blizzard of 78. Just got over. You can see the trees are covered with snow.
Yeah,
So,
Brad,
were you-
I will never forget the blizzard of '78, and here's why. So I grew up in the town of Linfield,
yes.
and Linfield, small community in the North Shore.
By the way,
Yeah.
do you know where Oxbow Road was in Linfield?
I do.
That was where my aunt lived, and that's where we went for Thanksgiving every year.
Ah, okay.
So, move
So-
on. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure. So back in those days, I was working as a young adult. I was working at the local food mart, which was called Worthen's Food Mart. And Worthen's was an old school food store that you could not only buy your groceries there, you could, it was truly, truly old school. You could go and cuff the bill, if you will. You had a ongoing invoice that you just charge your groceries to.
Really?
And you could pay your electric bill there, and you could pay your phone bill there. And at any rate, they also delivered groceries. They were pre-Peapod, if you will. So back in '78, I was one of the only folks that lived in town that supported the Worthens, who owned Worthens Food Mart, and they called me saying that the selectmen wanted them to open the store for the people. Would it be possible for you to come to work if they send a fire truck at the end of your neighborhood, which typically would have been a walk for me that would take no more than 5 minutes? Well, I agreed because you know me, I'm a workaholic. Even back then I was a workaholic. I said, sure, I'll do it. In order to get to where the fire truck was going to pick me up and deliver me to the store, that 5-minute walk took me about a half an hour. Why? Because the snow was so high, you had to lift your legs out of the snow and put it in front of you after each step.
Uh-huh.
And miraculously, 30 to 35 minutes later, I found myself where the fire truck did pick me up, bring me to the store, and then the fire truck brought me back home, dropped me off at the end of where the clearing was on that particular street. But it was just Mr. Worthen and myself. We opened the store for the people. All the bread, milk, and eggs were gone within an hour. And people showed up on toboggans, skis, snowshoes. It was amazing.
I wonder why we love these storms so much. In your case, it seems that it brings people together. There seems to be a common enemy that brings people together. I don't know if it would anymore.
brings- it
We'd
brings
probably
people-
somehow politicize the storm.
It brings people together, but I have a sad commentary on that particular experience, and here's how it goes. So I had never worked a cash register in my life, Brad, until that
Uh-oh.
day.
Right.
Mr. Worthen said, "You work the cash register, and I'll stock the shelves." And I said, "Oh, okay." But I've never done this before. He said, "Oh, you'll figure it out." Well, at the end of the day, I guess my drawer was short, I don't know, some $40, and they deducted it from my pay.
That's a bummer. Mr. Worthen, he should have ran the register and you should have stocked the shelves.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That is a sad thing. Did it leave a bitter
Not a nice guy.
really? So you have a bitter taste in your mouth about Mr. Worthen.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Wow.
But it was just quite an interesting memory to have at Worthen's Food Mart, and you name them, they came to that store. You remember back in those days, all the Bruins lived in Linfield. Carl
Yeah, so did
Yastrzemski-
Carl Yastrzemski. Yeah.
Carl Yastrzemski was my neighbor. I used to deliver his newspaper.
Was he a good guy or was he kind of grouchy?
Let the truth be known. Friday was payday for newspapers. And back in these days, a delivery newspaper boy like myself, if you got a tip, it would be typically a quarter.
Yeah.
And you would hit the lottery if you got 50 cents.
Yeah.
Mr. Yastrzemski used to send his maid to the door to pay me so he didn't have to give me a tip.
Oh, you know, when you leave a bad tip, people remember. And if you have any notoriety at all, then you really have to leave a good tip, because people will forever tell stories like that. I have a Jim Rice story.
Yeah.
It's just, I worked at TGI Fridays, my first job in Boston. And he came in, I waited on him, and he left a terrible tip. And I thought, wow. And I make sure to share that story
Yeah.
every
But
chance
there were-
I get, every chance
there
I
were
get
other-
for the last 50 years.
There were other sports players in the community and notorieties. Eddie Endelman was a neighbor of mine. He was a very nice guy, and his wife Judy. And I used to babysit his kids, Dan and David and Michael. But Ken Hodge was a great guy from the Bruins. Cheevers. The list goes on and on as to who lived in the community. I used to actually deliver groceries for Worthens driving their van, and I would deliver groceries to a lot of these folks. And they were all just regular, nice people.
By the way, $40 back then was like $300 now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
shame on that
losing
guy.
$500.
Oh, but Bob, thank you as always. Thank you for being so loyal and so participatory, and also so right. You're right about a lot of things. You're the guy who, one of the guys who encouraged me to get a gimbal for my video, and now, as you can probably tell, I use Canva, which you're the first one that encouraged me to use Canva for graphics, for YouTube thumbnails and stuff, and it's a blast. Do you use it yourself?
I use it for my business. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Yeah.
So
It's a
Sorry,
great,
go ahead.
it's a great product to use. But I'm seeing you have obviously you have a Phantom background. You'll have to explain to me off here how to
do that?
How to change my background on.
Oh,
I know how to do
absolutely.
it. I know how to do it on Zoom. I don't know how to do it on
This one's real. I really am outside, but I will show you how to do it. Thank you, Bob. I'm going to tell my story now, and anybody else who wants to join in, please do. Thanks, Bob. All right. My Blizzard of 78 story, and I want you to share yours if you can. So as I mentioned, I was at University of New Hampshire as a student, but I was not in Durham. I lived an idyllic situation, kind of communal building in Newmarket, New Hampshire. And it started to snow. He started to hear about how this is going to be a big, 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 big storm, and how things were going wild on the coast, like down in Hampton Beach, and the surf was blasting, and the National Guard was down there, and I felt like I was missing out. So about noontime, I think, it was still light out. Had to be about noon. I bundled up and started hitchhiking. So I want to be part of this. I want to go to Hampton Beach. Partly because I had just recently moved out from Hampton Beach and had people who were still living there. I was living on Boar's Head with a couple of chums. Boar's Head in Hampton Beach, which is a little jut of land sticking out, just very little, but it was getting whacked. And they decided to stay there. So I said, I'm going to go down there and see if they're there. That was before cell phones and stuff. I don't think I really knew that they were there, but I was willing to take a chance. I figured maybe I called them. I can't be sure. Start hitchhiking in the blizzard of 78. And of course, back in Durham in 78, you got rides anyway, but in a snowstorm, sure. So it took no time, or it didn't take much time to get to the part, I don't know what route it is, that you turn off to go to the Hampton Beach. But that road from Hampton, the main highway, to Hampton Beach was closed. So I had to walk. I don't know how long that is, 2 miles, 3 miles? In the blizzard of 78. Cars would go by, and no one gave me a ride there. I was hitchhiking, did not get a ride. So I ended up walking all the way from the highway to the beach. And then to Boar's Head. And man, when I got to the beach, the stuff I saw was unbelievable. Let me describe some of the things I saw. Well, the road was kind of impassable, was barely passable because it was filled with rocks, because the surf was so strong that it would hit the metal seawall and shoot up, and with it, it would take rocks, big rocks that would kill you if they hit you. It would send them up as high as a telephone pole and crash them down onto the road, onto cars, and so you had to be careful. And you could hear the rocks hitting. So you had to stay away from that surf because you could hear the rocks hitting the pavement and other rocks and the cars. Cars were on top of each other. The buildings were blown back off their foundations, just like 3 feet off the foundation. Power lines were down, which I was very careful about, very nervous about. And the National Guard was whipping up and down, giving people rides, dealing with emergencies. And there was at least one bar open, and that was during my Black Russian period. So I went and had a Black Russian. There were a few people in there, You could look out and see the National Guard whipping back and forth. And I guess the highlight was, to really give you an idea of what the deal was, on Boar's Head, I think it might have been a one-way road that went around only a few hundred yards. And on the far side of it, on the north side of it, was a building that had a hole in the living room the size of a Volkswagen Bug. Not a Volkswagen Atlas, those are huge. Volkswagen Beetle kind of size hole. That a rock had just been thrown by the storm, as big as a Volkswagen, into the building. And the rock was in the building, half in the building, but there was a big hole. And no one was there. And I just wanted to, I didn't know if anybody was there. It turns out there wasn't. I wanted to go see if anybody was in there, see if they needed anything. It was dark and all, of course. But you could walk right in the hole in the side of the house made by the rock. So after that, I went to where I stayed over with my friends on Boar's Head, Michael Verville and Lisa Eberhardt. And I think they were both there. And holed up in there. And then the next day, today, the 7th, it was sunny, but the surf was still huge. And an interesting phenom was that the water would hit the rocks and then hit the corrugated metal seawall. It was shaped like V's, like and to give it strength, I guess. I don't know why I call it corrugated, because kind of like the inside of a cardboard box. Anyway, it had this shape, V, 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 V. And the water would hit it and shoot up as high as the telephone pole still. It would go whoomp, and still it was showering down rocks. It would up as high as the telephone pole, come crashing down. But as it was going up, it maintained the shape of the wall. The wall of water was formed by the shape of the wall. So the water also had these like V shapes in it. It was really something. And then hitchhiked home, and it was a sunny day. Kind of, if I remember correctly, it felt at least kind of warmish. But that was my experience. Other people, as you know, you've seen those pictures of people abandoned their cars on 128. I don't know what that experience was like. Like, how's that work? If you get out of your car on 128, what do you do? And what were you doing on 128? I don't know. But will there ever be another blizzard of 78? Well, certainly never a blizzard of 1978, because there won't be any more 1978s. Will there be a blizzard and not like that in our lifetimes? No way. And will there be any snow in Boston at all? I don't think so. Would I want another one? You know, part of me would. But of course, it's a hassle. I guess another thing, at least around here, that people don't remember is that there was in Boston, I believe, a storm just before that. And Shannon, my wife, was telling stories the other day about there was a bridge. There used to be a footbridge over Route 9 in Brookline, where it's now Gateway East. And, you know, it was high enough so trailer trucks could go underneath. But you could jump off into the snow. That's how deep the snow was. And lots of stories. But I'm not down with snow anymore. Snow's a pain in my butt because I like to walk. And it impedes my walking. So I don't like snow. I'm done with snow. I really don't have a beef with no snow. If I want snow, I'll go up to the White Mountains and go up to Lonesome Lake Trail or something. I have snowshoes. I'm ready to go. Joe says, we came out and helped each other. Joe, did I not send you an invitation to join in person? I need to do that. Do I have your email? Send it to me. In 78, we came out and helped each other. Now we just stay in and stream. I guess that's right. What do you think? People are worse than they used to be. I would go, yeah, people are worse. Overall, society is meaner and less likely to help out each other. But I don't know. Maybe we'll have some sort of crisis that pulls us together again. Thanks to Lola Pope. And thanks to Boston Bob for joining in. This is fun. If you would like to be a trusted, and you have to be trusted, a trusted contributor to these, where you actually come on screen and you know me and you have my email, send me an email or contact me somehow so that I can send you an email and you can give me permission to put you on the email mailing list. It's kind of fun. There are only 17 people because you got to be a very trusted person. Melinda, if some of the people from WBZ would be trusted. Joe, you're certainly trusted. Get me your email, and make sure you chime in every time. And there you go. So I'll be done now, but maybe this will inspire you to post pictures of the blizzard of 78. I would have included pictures, but I don't have any. Although there was a photo in the newspaper of the day after the high surf that I was telling you about, and I was in it, but I can't find it. So bye. Coming up tomorrow on the Bradley J. Show, we'll join Chachi and his crew to talk about the upcoming event at City Winery, where we celebrate the Beatles' appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show, which took place on February 9th. And the event celebrating that at City Winery is Sunday the 11th at noon. It's really a great thing. A lot of people go. I'm the MC every time. And if you've never been, think about it. It's noontime on Sunday, so parking is good. And what else are you doing? You can go to the North End after for something to eat. I suppose you could eat at the City Winery too, because they do serve wonderful food and beverages. So that's Sunday. And a reminder to subscribe to my YouTube travel channel. Will you do that? Just go to YouTube and search Bradley J. Travel. Also go to YouTube and search Bradley J. Show and subscribe to both of those, okay? And next time, I promise I'll have my beard combed. I didn't notice. I have bed beard. It's like pretty raunchy looking, and I apologize.